Welcome to the Parker Podcast Collection.
Welcome to the Not Playing Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and this week I'm joined by
Iain Bruce
and Patrick Kane.
You can contact us on email at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. Yeah, so just going to go through some of the news stories that have occurred since we were all together. Let's just kind of get some of these Nintendo stories out of the way. It's kind of some interesting stuff going on with them, though, because basically they've just sort of announced that they've partnered with a Japanese company to make some mobile games. And of course, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, it's happening. You know, this is the beginning of it all happening. They've had pressure from shareholders to put some of their stuff out on mobile devices for a while now, and a lot of people were ready to sort of go, oh, Nintendo's doomed, this is the end. But I think in actual reality, I don't think we're going to be seeing like ports of their big games coming out on phones.
We're not going to see Mario on mobile.
No, well,
not yet anyway.
Might do, but I think it will be games specifically made for those devices by this third party called what are they called? DNA. Yeah, DENA. And they're doing something that will replace Club Nintendo, which ended earlier in the year. But I think this is mostly going to affect the Japanese market, and to sort of reassure people that this was not the end of Nintendo, but also at the same time pretty much seal the fate of the Wii U. They announced that they're working on a new flagship hardware platform called the NX, which we know nothing about aside from the fact that they're doing it. But I don't think that's really much news, really, because they're, you know, I'm sure Sony and Microsoft are working on follow-ups to their current machines as well. So, but I think we might be seeing this Nintendo stuff a bit sooner. But who knows what form that will take.
Are you excited about this? Is anybody excited about this? I don't mean our general...
No,
but
not
do you think it's good for something? Good for the industry? Good for what? Who's it good for? Good for Nintendo?
Well, I think Nintendo need to...
They need to be good at something at the moment, don't they?
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
I mean, it's all a bit sort of teasy and a bit not really news, really, because all that we can tell from this is that they're obviously making a move into mobile, but it seems a bit half-assed, really. It's not like they're actually really getting behind it. They're just sort of lending their expertise to some mobile game development and maybe some of their IPs, but I don't know. I don't think there's much news here. Other console news, though, recently, PlayStation... I thought this was really cool, actually. The latest PlayStation 4 update brings with it button mapping.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. Like, that's so long overdue. It's like 15 years late.
Yeah, when I first read it, I was a bit like, oh, what? That's so? But then when I thought about it, it's always annoyed me when I've played PlayStation games, and they always map like the gun
the triggers
controls
to the wrong fucking buttons.
Yeah, to the shoulders rather than the actual triggers.
Fuck you, Uncharted. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's just always so bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
So just being able to override that at a system level is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can sort of set it up so that it always does that, but I guess, yeah, probably you could. If you literally rebind what those buttons are to different buttons, then...
Oh, yeah.
I suppose you could.
Okay, so you're telling the system that when I press the triggers, I'm actually pressing the shoulder buttons, instead of doing it in a game like you would for PC?
Yeah.
Obviously, I've not read the article. We don't read articles here. We just discuss based on the headline. I'm hoping somebody has read the article, Rob.
I looked at a screenshot.
It's full customization of button mapping, so you can remap the buttons to whatever you like. The idea being that it's an accessibility thing. So I would therefore assume that you are literally overriding what those buttons are. So if you want X to be on the shoulder, you can do that.
Cool.
I think that's the idea.
Excellent. I mean, purely for accessibility issues or accessibility accommodation, that's a beautiful thing that they're doing. For us old schoolers that like the triggers to be the firking guns, that's excellent too. So Sony, if you want to send us 3 PS4s so we can investigate your new solutions, we would appreciate that. PO box coming at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Because we love you, Sony.
Absolutely. Also, if you wouldn't mind sending us a Project Morpheus when they come out in the first half of next year, that would be quite nice as well.
Jesus.
But,
and segues for dummies as well, if you've got that. That would be excellent.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Well, I tried. Basically, GDC was a few weeks ago now, but we were covering the last show we recorded. It was GDC was actually happening. So this is the first chance we've had to announce this or regurgitate it, whatever. Project Morpheus. The VR headset for PlayStation 4, they're saying that it's going to be coming out in the first half of 2016, which sounds kind of reasonable. I mean, the hardware certainly looks like ready for prime time. Whether the software support's there is another question. But yeah, looks like Sony will be ready for early next year.
New version's got an OLED display. It's 920 by 1080, so it's like it's DK2 resolution essentially, and apparently 120 hertz refresh rate,
which is awesome.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Really interested. See how that's going to look.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that the grunt that's driving it probably isn't going to be able to push as many pixels as Oculus anyway. But
there was it last time or on Game Dump or somewhere we had mentioned a story that a developer had added to Reddit that said no, there's going to be an issue creating games for the Morpheus because we can only really do 30 FPS at the moment anyway. But there was a subsequent thing. I'm all about the sources, me. Somewhere on the internet, somebody had said, that's not true. So there we go. Cool story, bruh.
That was really interesting.
Well, here's the thing. This is what I think. I think, like, in a way that kind of weakness in the kind of lower processing power of the PS4 compared to a high-end PC is in a way a kind of strength as well as a weakness, because it's going to kind of necessitate writing things specifically for VR instead of trying to just add VR support to big AAA titles which are coming out anyway, which you won't be able to do if it's already struggling to do like 60 frames per second without stereo rendering. So I really think that's how it should kind of be. They should all kind of be these kind of more experimental titles that use the new technology, and so to build specifically for them, that I think that just makes more sense really, and I think it will probably benefit the games
rather than Uncharted Morpheus edition.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and that will kind of lower the ceiling for PC in a way if they're kind of hamstrung by what the PS4 can do.
Well, I mean that's really the case with mobile as well. If developers can make VR work on mobile, they can make it work on anything.
And ultimately, like every other medium, being able to develop on multiple platforms is going to be kind of what people want to do.
Absolutely,
especially they're not going to want to throw in all their weight behind one of them. So being able to get stuff to work across like Gear VR and PS4 as well, I can see that being quite a big thing for VR. Morpheus first.
Go on. that won't work though, will it? Because the Sony ecosystem has traditionally always been quite closed. You need to get PS3 dev kits if you want to do stuff for PS3 through Unity and stuff. It'll do stuff for Unity, or are they being very open about, well, you can just make stuff and give it to us and we'll sell it for $60?
Yeah, it's Microsoft who are making the Xbox One. Like, you can turn that into a dev kit, can't you? Just by getting some software. But I don't know if PlayStation's as open as that. But I don't know. Yeah, I suppose indie development you won't see much of. But as far as like fairly,
which is kind of weird.
No, I kind of think you probably will. I think you probably will see that it will be a lot of smaller indie teams who are probably developing for Oculus Rift as well.
Yeah.
And maybe do a Morpheus title, from that same studio. I think I think there are a few titles which are coming out on both. I don't think it's. I'm sure you will get some exclusive titles, but I think they're going to be more kind of hardware bound rather than being like the walled garden of Sony as such.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll see, really.
Yeah, definitely. Morpheus coming in first half of 2016, and that may well be the same for the Rift, actually, because there's been no real confirmation of it, but they did mention at GDC, the Oculus guys, Palmer Luckey said that it might not happen this year. Didn't they?
I'm fairly confident it won't happen until at least March next year.
Right.
Based on stuff I can't record.
Fair enough. So you have your sources. That no need to say any more than
moving
that.
Moving along now. Nothing to say.
Yeah.
Yet.
No, I think. Since I think the general gist of it was at South by Southwest that they said this. In fact, I think the general gist of it is that their roadmap has changed since getting all the investment, and so they're now the scale has somewhat shifted, and we're looking at a bit later on now. But then it looks like a lot of them are. It's only Valve that are saying that they're going to make it this year.
But
currently, but I'm still dubious about that, to be honest.
I know at some point in the near future we'll be talking about the Steam machines coming in November, much the same as we did last year for the Steam machines coming last November. So Valve saying, I don't really know why Valve have done it, because they run on Valve time in the best of circumstances, and it would be good for them to be first to market, but I'll believe it when it happens. Rob, can I ask you a question about all of these? With this Morpheus coming in 2016 and the Rift at some point, and the Vive as well, are any of these appealing to you, or is it not something that you want to get into? I know we blether about it on a regular basis here, and you've used the Rift and stuff, but of the ones that look like they're coming out, which one do you think you would invest in, if any?
At the moment, just based on a pure sort of platform point of view, I'm really interested in the Steam one, to be honest.
Okay.
The fact, even though the stuff like where you're encouraged to like walk around, the fact that it's optimized for like this 15-foot square space, that doesn't really appeal to me that much. But I don't know. Everything I've heard suggests that what they're doing is a leap ahead of what Oculus are doing.
Yeah. Okay. You don't want to get the gear or get a PS4 and the Morpheus just from.
The Morpheus appeals to me from a pure sort of user experience point of view. I'm sure that's all going to be very well done and very simple to set up. So that appeals to me, but I'll only consider it if I have a PS4. I'm not going to buy a PS4 to get it.
Right. Okay.
Because it's just going to be more expensive, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking of the Valve stuff, HTC are planning a world tour to let people try out the Vive system. And they're going to be doing that in the USA, Europe, and Asia Pacific regions. Don't know when exactly, but considering they're gearing up for a launch later this year,
developer sign-up should be available this week, which is probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, depending on when this gets out.
wow.
April. Developer sign-ups are coming for the Steam stuff. So I'm not quite clear whether that's the Vive and Lighthouse and all the rest of it, but it's coming soon, extremely soon.
Exciting stuff.
Ooh,
Valve also made some other announcements at GDC, including what I always thought a Steam box would be, this Steam Link thing, which I think is basically a set-top box that you use to stream your PC onto your telly.
I'm absolutely up for this. Absolutely up for that. It's only $50, which will probably be 50 quid in the UK because that's the exchange rate apparently. But absolutely up for that. Would love to play some of the games from my PC on the couch without having to move shit
1080p
around.
resolution at 60 hertz with low latency.
Yeah.
That's what Valve say.
GTA 5 on the PC on the couch. That would be a bit weird, but there we go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it looks brilliant. And so they also showed a new version, or the final version of their controller, which is looking pretty decent. Still preserving the 2 haptic feedback sensors, but also an analog stick. I think this was a version they showed a while ago that had this. But that's their final spec for it, and that's going to be available in November when the Steam machines come out as well. So that's all finally happening, allegedly.
Dear Santa. I'll get them in November, who am I kidding? Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, they have started advertising all of this on Steam. So they do seem to be getting behind it a little more themselves from a marketing angle anyway. So they really must actually have something that they're going to be selling soon.
Or they'll push it back, like everybody pushes everything else back.
Yeah. It's not quite ready yet.
Yeah.
I really hope not, because I've been looking forward to giving this a go. I don't know whether would you buy it just on a recommendation, or would you have to try it out first?
What, the Link and the controller?
The controller. I'm
just going to buy them. I'm just going to buy them.
You're just going to get them. Take a chance.
Yeah.
I think I would on the controller. I'm not sure I have enough of a use case for the Link yet, just because our lounge is always like, it's, the Netflix zone.
Yeah.
And there's always stuff going on. So, but anyway, that's all pretty cool. Valve is giving this Lighthouse tech away for free for any hardware manufacturer. This is their controller solution that goes with their Vive setup, right?
Vive.
Yeah, so basically Valve is like saying that the Lighthouse is going to be kind of like USB, and that they're going to sort of give the tech away so that other companies can use it, which is really, really cool, because it means it's going to get widespread and lots of people can be making it. It means you can modify it. It means it can kind of get better quicker, which is really cool. But yeah, it's the whole kind of idea of a tracking system which allows you to just kind of pretty much move in any size space depending on how many of them you're actually using. I think that's going to be absolutely huge. It opens up not only stuff with cool consumer use, but also like that kind of VR arcade thing. It's going to be absolutely useful for that.
Yeah.
I would really love to play some of those kind of warehouse size VR experiences.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be amazing.
Gabe looks beautiful in that photo. Gosh, that might be. It's just cool.
It does seem like they've put an awful lot of thought into this sort of stuff, whereas elsewhere it looks like a lot of convergence of different third parties all coming together. This is kind of what sells the Vive to me, is that it seems like they're offering a more complete experience.
The controller, the controller, the input system is so important. It is so important, because you want developers to have something to write for, and it can't be keyboard and mouse. It can't really be an Xbox controller. I mean that works. Either of those can work in certain things, but you do need something that's a bit more kind of natural, and the most important thing is being able to see your hands. That is what it all comes down to, really. Everyone, when they first try VR, puts their hands up and looks at their hands and doesn't see them. And I think that's such a crucial thing.
It's got to be one-to-one, hasn't it? There's no good having like your movement, your head is one-to-one. So to look down and or to not have anything that is one-to-one to interact with the environment is just really, it's immersion breaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like you're an armless ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, what we got next? Nvidia announces the new Titan X video card.
Yeah. Look at that.
Bought two the other day. Got 12 at work. No, we haven't.
This is like your next graphics card, right, Pat?
Oh, God, yeah. It's my next mortgage.
It's $1,000, basically. So, and it's got 12 gig of RAM, which...
Isn't there one for 1,600 quid?
It might be $1,600 or $1,300, I think it was. So it works out about $1,000 in English. So yeah, it's pretty powerful. But I was watching a thing on PC Gamer actually, and they were saying like, what is actually going to make use of this? And they reckon the ultimate use case for one of these is it's 4K gaming, really. 4K and 3D,
yeah, and
I guess by default VR. But yeah, for they were saying for most normal use, you can. I think they benchmarked it, and they only got at 4K. They got 40 to 50 frames per second off one of these.
Yeah,
so they'd say you probably need two. Yeah, it's 4K though, which is insane.
Yeah,
so.
Just sit really close to your monitor, and there you go.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But yeah, I mean, that's doing 4K is that more demanding than VR? It's a different kind of thing, isn't it? Really, because you're not at that resolution in VR, but you need the frame rate in VR. That's the thing, isn't it? So.
Eventually, you're going to need 4K for VR, yeah, but that's not immediately now. I don't think. I mean. I guess if you made something that was like super low poly and was like very, very, very simple, you could theoretically run it at 4K and get like 90 FPS, but it would have to be pretty...
Cube Explorer. You standing on a cube. That's it.
Yeah.
It just sort
Text reader.
Yeah, I think the thing is, in the past, I'd see this and I'd just laugh at it and go, "What the fuck do you need that for?" But I can actually think of what I'd need.
You're trying to figure out how to pay for it now, aren't you?
Oh God, no! I'm no, not at all. But just the fact that there is a reason to get it is worrisome.
I think it may have a lot of application in out of home experiences. Like,
very, very, very useful
museums,
for
interactives, that kind of theme parks, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and super useful for anyone developing games.
Oh yeah, because when because you need that kind of bandwidth, don't you, to play around with stuff before you optimize it.
Well, it's more that you're trying to make games for like a year in advance or whatever. So you're kind of using higher end hardware because hardware gets higher end and cheaper. So, a kick-ass card, 1 year, 2 years down the line is kind of like an average gamer's card. So
doesn't that? I think you're right, but doesn't that make the assumption that everybody will be getting new cards regularly? Because I really want to get at least one 970, but I'd prefer two 980s. But I know that by the end of the year, something else will be out, and I don't really want to spend 800 quid on graphics cards every year when there's other things to spend money on, not least my wife.
Yeah. my strategy is to wait until I need it. Basically, wait until
How are you defining that metric? Don't you need it every day?
That is when I've got a new VR headset in my hands that needs it, because that's as late as I can leave it.
Right.
For me, I would have waited longer to get a new card if there hadn't been so much hype for the 970. Everyone was saying, this is the card to buy, it's a no-brainer, and I knew like 3 or 4 other people that had bought one, and I was like, fuck it, I'm having it. Because I just wanted to be ready for like a whole bunch of games coming out that weren't shackled to the legacy of the old consoles like they had been until recently.
Yeah.
So
as soon as it gets below 200, I'm going to get one. But I'm just going to.
Well, you can get a 960, but that's like the
that's
entry level. Yeah,
might as well buy a PS4. What are you talking about?
Yeah, true. Nvidia also announced a new Shield, which is a 4K Android TV console. Looks like it's just another one of the streamy type things.
That's this week's hardware review. It does. It's like, all magic.
Yeah,
I wish Nvidia would make an actual Shield, like proper Shield one. Size.
Yeah,
and it's 4K, and you just like run around in a field playing. It'd be like that. Those weird segments in the later seasons of Nightmare from the 80s.
Oh yeah,
where they had the weird seeing thing where they could walk through the
no listeners will get that reference, Pat.
No,
and you've aged yourself as well. Rob and I are in our early 20s, but Pat, old man Pat, we call him.
Oh dear.
I remember watching Nightmare.
Sorry, yeah. So to be more specific, this Shield isn't a weird controllery thing like the last version. This is actually it's an Android set-top box with a Tegra X1 processor, and it will support 4K content streamed from Nvidia-powered PCs at 1080p, 60 frames per second.
I think I may open a shop to try and sell them. Then I can become an agent of Shield. Thanks very much. Here all week. Enjoy the veal.
Oh, God. Moving on, one of the more unfortunate stories that was going on at GDC, almost as if to soften the blow, was the closure of Maxis, who you might know made a game called SimCity and a few other things sim-related. And recently, I suppose, they were arguably a bit of a Sims factory of sorts, rather than the kind of inspired studio that was originally set up by Will Wright to make SimCity and other games of that kind. There was another one. What was the one in space?
Space Sims. I have no idea.
Sim Space?
No, there was one where you could make weird creatures and stuff.
Oh, fuck. Spore.
That's it.
But that wasn't.
Yeah.
Was that Maxis? I thought he did it on his own.
Oh, maybe
I thought he did it after he left. Wasn't that his first? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah, Maxis were mostly responsible for The Sims and SimCity, the last version of which was not very good. Although I have been playing a mobile version of SimCity recently, SimCity Build It, which is okay. It's very microtransaction centric, but if you're prepared to just go, I need to pay, okay, I'll play something else now or do something else, it's fairly harmless, and it looks really nice. It's like a little city going on in your phone. It's great. So yeah, that's literally what SimCity is, but I thought it was quite cool.
It is quite sad that companies that were once great have become these monsters that aren't really doing what people who were around when they started thought of them as great things, like id and other companies that kind of split and their founders have moved on to other stuff. It's kind of a shame, but that happens with everything. People move on, and it's a shame if people have lose their jobs. Wow, tired. It's a shame if people have lost their jobies. But stuff. It's not it's a fluid industry and shit changes all the time. So hopefully they'll go on to do other stuff, and I wish them the very best. If they know anyone at Sony, we'd like some PS4s, please.
You know what? I can easily see this happening to Lionhead. Cause,
just turning into a billion indie companies.
Well, they've just turned into like a Fable factory.
And making loads of better stuff.
They've got this new one coming out that has recently become free to play, and I just think it's going to sink without a trace, and then they'll just close Lionhead because they won't have anything for them to do.
But Lionhead as an entity has been going for ages, and we have some ex-Lionhead people at work, not doing game stuff, but they work there, and there's a load of... Because we're in the same town as Lionhead, when we go out drinking, we will meet people who have either worked there or work there at the
Lionhead!
moment. You Lionhead fuckers! And they're all lovely guys, but... I think you saying this might happen to Lionhead, I think it has already happened to Lionhead. The people who made the games that were awesome have gone, and it's, as you said, become a Fable factory. Which may not necessarily be a good thing. I'm sure the next Fable will be better than the last one. Oh no, he's not saying that anymore, is he?
No. You could argue that, Maxis, that had already happened to Maxis before they closed as well. Like, Will Wright certainly wasn't there.
And the Call of Duty guys, it all just kind of changes and moves on. Maybe it's happened at DICE as well. DICE seem to have been reasonably consistent with the one game they create every couple of years.
Yeah. And, like, you could say this about a lot of these studios that close. I'm sure if you've got the people there, they're going to be more hesitant to shut things down.
Yeah.
But if they choose to leave, and they leave that company there, it's like Notch, and all that business.
So today we learned capitalism has repercussions.
Indeed. There was some awards at GDC and at South by Southwest. Shadow of Mordor cleaning up both. I think it's fair to say that that was quite well deserved. Dragon Age got Game of the Year actually at South by Southwest, but Shadow of Mordor picked up 3 honours.
So who votes for those? Is it game developers or is it the sponsors?
I'm guessing they were judged at both.
Okay.
Both cases. I would imagine there was a panel. Judged. Oops, they're both. They're both kind of industry sort of events. South by Southwest and GDC are very much, on the industry side.
Yeah.
That was that. And finally, there was news that Ready Player One will be directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
Which is cool because it's kind of, it's almost like a bit of a paradox, isn't it? Because
basically, Ready Player One, if you haven't read it, it's a really cool sci-fi about virtual reality in the future, and literally every page is like drenched in like 80s and 90s pop culture references. Some of which are Steven Spielberg's films, obviously.
Right.
But so he is actually, he's just perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Although he has produced some shit recently.
Yeah,
he's having his not quite so good as he used to be period, or his serious adult period, one of the two.
The thing about this is, this wouldn't be the first film that he said he was going to direct and then didn't. The guy's very busy at the moment. He's got a war film on the go, and the BFG, the Roald Dahl story, that's going to be his next film.
Has he said he's going to do it, or has somebody else reported that he's going to do it?
Well, see, it says set to go at Warner Brothers in collaboration with Village Roadshow, and has also attracted one of the biggest talents in filmmaking. As of now, Ready Player One director is Steven Spielberg. So I don't know what he has to do to say he's definitely doing it or not definitely doing it. But they seem to have got away with putting this story out from multiple sources.
Yeah.
So
wonder who's going to get the Titan VR game. Everybody should. That would be great.
Yeah.
There's already been some cool Oculus Rift demos of some scenes from Ready Player One. They're very cool.
Maybe Facebook will get it, and in 10 years' time, we will all be saying, "God, do you remember when games weren't with VR?"
Yeah. My one more question I've got about this is, do you think this story is so reliant on the pulp culture references that it would hurt it if it had to take some out?
I don't think so.
In order
it works. No. I think it works. It gives fond memories, and there's a lot of nostalgia there. But I think as a story, it would work without those references.
Yeah.
Although keeping some of them in as a nod to the readers of the book or listeners of the book.
A lot of the most important ones are computer games rather than films and things like that. So I think they'd probably be quite easy to acquire.
They get away with it.
But yeah, I think they're going to have to just be a little bit creative with it because they won't be able to use all of them, obviously. But I don't think it'd be harmed by dropping a few.
Do you think it might be harmed by being a movie instead of a massive budget TV series?
The thing is, it was just a very, very fun book, wasn't it?
Yeah. Could it be fun in 2.5 hours, or would it be better like Band of Brothers, where there's a number of episodes with a massive budget, so you end up with like 3 or 4 movies?
It's a good question.
We'll see. We'll see. No doubt.
See.
The Slash Film article does point out that Warner Brothers managed to get a lot of rights cleared for the Lego movie, so that's hopeful, I suppose.
Well, that's got a lot of similar sort of hurdles, really, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, Batman and Star Wars in the same movie. Yeah. I've never seen anything like that before, so sorry, spoilers. But yeah. And so, yeah, on that bombshell, that's all the news we've got for this week. This has been the Not Playing Podcast in partnership with notlistening.co.uk. You can get me on Twitter at Bobby Rocker, BOBIROKA.
I'm at EboGB, which is EBOWGB.
And I'm at Patrick J Kay.
You can contact us on email at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. You can find the show notes for this show at notlistening.co.uk. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, then please do give us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. See ya!
Goodbye, listener.